Hello everyone, so here we are with our Galaxy S4 review. We spent quite a lot of time with the Galaxy S4. This isn't a first blush review by any stretch of the imagination. Quite a lot of time and effort has gone into using the S4 in lots of different situations and really taking a good look at what Samsung are bringing us. So first off, spec-wise, this is by far the most powerful smartphone ever created. The Qualcomm Snapdragon 600 processor backed up with a Crate GPU, a 1080p 5-inch display, 2 gig of system RAM. It flies, let's face it, this is the fastest smartphone ever created. But it's let down in a few areas, which we'll come on to during the review. Now first off, the style of the Samsung Galaxy S4 is striking, but maybe not the most progressive of designs we've ever seen. Certainly when placed against something like a HTC ONE, this does look a little bit out of date, let's say. A little bit too close to the Galaxy S3 and the Note 2, with only really minor updates to the general look and feel of the hardware. However, one massive change that Samsung have made is the in-the-hand feel. Now the Galaxy S4 feels great, and I mean really great in the hand. With the Note 2 and with the S3, at times you could feel your kind of fingers starting to strain a little bit because of the kind of curved back wasn't quite as curved as it could be. And now though, the feel, certainly in my hands, is very, very good. The weighting as well has been distributed much better. So at no point do you quite feel the device is tipping, top end or bottom end, the way that it did with the S3 and the Note 2. A much, much more solid feel in the hand. But that said, the continued use of these plastics, polycarbonates as it were, on the Galaxy S4 does make you feel that the device is a little bit cheap. It feels like a Nokia Lumia. Actually, no, that might be a bit unfair to a Nokia Lumia, because the Lumias actually feel quite good. This does feel shiny and plasticky and a little bit nasty, which is a shame because the weight is brilliant. The in-the-hand feel is perfect. It's comfortable to use, but it just feels a little bit plasticky and cheap, which is such a shame. Maybe Samsung could look at doing something different in future. Rumours have it they won't. And that plastic is really, these polycarbonates is where they stand. We could argue all day long which is better, aluminium, polycarbonate. Again, this is one of those personal choice moments. If you're someone who wants aluminium, you feel that gives you more durability, then the S4 is not going to be for you. If you're someone who's willing to trade off the polycarbonate for the replaceable battery and more spec for your money, then the S4 may very well be a good choice. And these are really the choices we have to make. It's aluminium and less spec for our money, no removable battery, or polycarbonate plastics, removable battery and a higher clock and a higher spec overall. So we have our trade-off. I won't comment on which is better. My personal feeling is I like removable batteries, and that probably answers the question. So on the software side of things, Samsung have thrown everything in the kitchen sink into the Galaxy S4. You've got everything from an optical character recognition system, which can also do translations. So you can point it at an object which has text on it, and it will translate that text in real time for you, either into English or into other languages. Quite cool. You've got things like S-Voice, which I still wish Samsung would dump. It's not a patch on Google now. S-Translator, S-Planner and S-Memo. S-Translator being one of the new items which allows for near real-time translation between two languages. So if you're travelling into a foreign country or something, or you meet somebody from a foreign country and you're having trouble having that conversation, you can use S-Translator to assist you. For the most part it works well. It does require you to speak fairly slowly and quite deliberately, but it gets there in the end. S-Health though is by far the shining example on the S4, and it makes you wonder why all of Samsung's apps can't be of this quality. With the S-Health app, it tracks your day-to-day life. It monitors how many calories you've burnt, how much weight you've gained, and helps you stay fit and healthy. And as you can see, the app is beautifully designed. I mean, in comparison to some of the other Samsung apps, it's like they got somebody else to build this for them. It's beautiful, and just a quick note there, you can just see for a second there was some interface lag, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. There does seem to be some problems with interface lag. But just back to the S-Health app, it's phenomenal. And maybe not the reason to buy the S4 in its own right, but if you're a fitness fanatic or if you're someone who's looking to get fit, the S-Health app might be a tipping point compared to other handsets on the market. S-Memo and S-Planner are unchanged from the previous editions. They've been given a few tweaks here and there, but the basic functionality is still the same. If you've used them on the S3 or on the Note 2, effectively these are Samsung's versions of a note-taking app and a calendar app. I'm afraid to say Google does it better. Yeah, no lies there, Google does it better and with better integration. The problem I always found with S-Planner is it very rarely seems to automatically update my calendar. Yet Google always manages absolutely fine. For some reason it just doesn't work with the syncing reliably. Samsung Link is the new name for the All-Cast and Share application, I believe. This allows you to link up multiple different devices, including PCs and other phones, and share information wirelessly between them. It worked quite well in practice. We were able to pull graphics and video footage from a local PC over Wi-Fi and display them on the S4 with very little time delay, and it all felt very fluid and easy to use. However, it was quite a chore setting up the Samsung software on the PC. It took several attempts, a few reboots and a bit of magic, possibly some voodoo actually, and eventually Samsung's website and servers recognised the computer. It was strange, we couldn't work out exactly why it wasn't working, it just seemed to be a bit glitchy. Next up is kind of the applications that Samsung have pre-installed for us. Yay Samsung, thank you, from third parties. This includes TripAdvisor, Dailymotion, and Watch On, which is kind of a Samsung app, but they've licensed it from a company called Pair. TripAdvisor, as you know, is TripAdvisor. Let's not bother going into any detail in that. You can remove it if you'd like to. Watch On, however, is a slightly different beast. What you do is you set this up with some basic information about you and where you live. Once it has that information, it will then profile your TV, as it were, within the local area. So if you have regional television or the national television, etc. And from there, it will allow you to pick what types of shows you enjoy watching. It will then make suggestions to you about what shows you might like to watch. And if you want to watch the show, you simply tap the show's name and the infrared port on here will automatically change the channel for you to the correct channel. Likewise, you can set up all of your audio-video equipment in here, and by doing so, you can then control your television, your audio-video equipment, Blu-ray player, all from your smartphone. For me, that is a bit of a killer feature, and it kind of puts the S4 heads and shoulders above any of the other smartphones out there. It's a very nice implementation. I would have preferred an application built solely by Samsung because this one is a bit ugly in places and feels, well, not very modern and not very Google Android-y hollowy, which is a shame because it's a great app let down by its rather lackluster GUI. Samsung have also seen fit to put their own app store on there, which is not as good as the Play Store, but it has a reasonable attempt. There's a few design language issues with the Samsung store which are just baffling considering it was updated especially for the Galaxy S4, yet the banner images at the top don't stretch all the way across the screen, they appear to only be 720p. A few little things like that kind of just make you say, well, that was a nice attempt Samsung, but your polish and your finishing off leaves a lot to be desired. The standard Google apps are all included as well, so you'll find Gmail here, you'll find Google Chrome, Google Maps, Play Music, Play Movies, Play Books, all of the usual things you would expect on any Android device is here. Samsung have also seen fit to include their video app and a few other little bits and pieces. They're pretty much the muchness, and whilst they work very, very well, they're not going to set the world on fire and they're not going to be a reason on their own to actually buy this device. What Samsung have kind of done really is improve the sensors remarkably in the Galaxy S4. There's a lot more sensors, including things like barometers, temperature gauges, tilt control, gyroscopes. It's all available in here. And also things like Smart Scroll, Smart Stay, Air Gestures and Air View. And these are all something you can tweak from the settings. Once you've got them tweaked and turned on, they allow you to interact with the device in new ways. So one of those is to be able to pick up an icon, and then instead of having to try and move the icon to the edges of the screen, you can simply wave your hand over one of the sensors, let's go the right way, and then drop the icon where you'd like. So there, I've dropped it there. If I press and hold and flick, you can see I'm moving across the entire screen, but I only had to press and hold one icon, and I'm then able to move. And this works in quite a few different applications, including things like the app drawer. It works well. It doesn't work reliably all of the time. Some of the features using the S sensor, the S camera sensor, etc., things like the S view and the smart stays and all of that, don't work brilliantly in low light. It has to be able to see your face. And for instance, the one that allows you to scroll up and down in the web browser only works with the Android browser, not with the Chrome browser. So there's a few things there which are kind of like, well, all right, great, you've got this brilliant feature here. Now enable it for every single application going. It's not like this is the first time we've had some of this software appearing on the Samsung devices. They've not really moved the promise forward yet, in my opinion. Just having stuff locked down to the defaults, a bit like having the multi-window option enabled. Multi-window by default only works with stuff that Samsung have pre-defined, which is not much good if those aren't the apps you kind of want to use. With the multi-window. Multi-window allows you to have two applications on screen at the same time, which is cool. We like that idea, but it would be nice if it could be two different applications at the same time, just picked from your app tray. So overall, we really like the Samsung Galaxy S4. Whilst we've had quite a lot of teething troubles with it, the overheating issue, the headphone jack issue, and the general manufacturing, as we've got used to the S4 and we found a few workarounds to some of the problems, we found it to be a very competent device, one of the better smartphones on the market. We will be taking a look at the HTC ONE and we'll also be comparing it to the S3 and the Note 2. But overall, I think if you're in the market for a new phone now, the S4 is the one to go for. If you already have an S3 or a Note 2, I think I would say there's not quite enough here to justify it, not unless you need the bigger 1080p screen or the faster processor. If you don't need either of those two things, really what Samsung have offered here is not enough to justify selling your S3 or Note 2, trading in, or biting the bullet and just buying an S4. It's a great device. It's got a lot of rough edges, and the extra stuff that we're getting here is mostly software. There is not really enough to justify dumping a device like the S3 or the Note 2 that's barely a year old. Those are great devices, so is the S4, and realistically for me, this device sits in between the S3 and the Note 2. And it's kind of like the S3 now becomes the mid-range model, the S4 becomes the high-end smartphone, and the Note 2 is still the daddy.